I stood in the hallway of my own house, the suit clinging to my skin, damp with the sweat of anticipation. My hands trembled, not from nerves, but from rage. A dozen emotions clawed through me, but none louder than betrayal. My name is Marcus Luring, or at least it used to be. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. My 50th birthday, a milestone, a half-century of blood, sacrifice, and silent service to people I thought were my family. My wife, my sons, my legacy. But I was wrong. Let's rewind. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and worked as an HVAC technician for nearly 3 decades. I don't have fancy degrees, no stocks or flashy cars. What I did have was consistency. I showed up every single day. When a heater broke down, I fixed it. When the car gave up, I was under it. When the boys needed lunch money, equipment for football, or college funds, I found a way. My ex-wife, Colette, was once the most magnetic woman I'd ever met. Her laugh could light up a room. And when we first dated, I thought I'd found a woman who would be my partner through hell and high water. For a while, we made it work. We had 3 sons, Noah, Carter, and Eli. I lived for those boys. Everything I did was for them. Even after the marriage started cracking, even after Colette lost interest in me, I stayed. She left me 8 years ago, right around the time our youngest turned 15. Her reason? I was emotionally stagnant. Said she needed passion, not predictability, whatever the hell that meant. Still, I kept being their father. I paid for Noah's house down payment, bailed Carter out of the gambling ring he stupidly entered, and covered Eli's college tuition after financial aid dried up. I showed up. I was the man behind the curtain, holding up their fragile little worlds. So when they called me 3 weeks ago and said, "Hey, Dad, we want to throw you a surprise 50th, a big one, for everything you've done," I almost dropped my phone. They'd barely acknowledged me in years, and now they want to honor me? I should have known better. Saturday evening, I showed up at the lounge they'd rented. Dozens of familiar faces, coworkers, neighbors, guys from church. Balloons lined the rafters, and a giant Happy 50th Marcus banner hung above the stage. I almost felt something warm creep into my chest. Almost. Noah tapped his glass. "Before we eat, we put together something special for Dad. Hope you're ready," he said. The lights dimmed, and a projector hummed to life. At first, it was innocent enough. Childhood photos, silly filters, clips of my younger self. People laughed. I laughed. Then Colette's voice, laced with venom and smugness, came over the speakers. Marcus Luring. Failed husband, failed father, failed man. I froze. The room shifted. Laughter died. Uneasy glances flickered across the crowd. I looked up, hoping this was a joke. Some tasteless roast. It wasn't. Slide after slide flashed across the screen. My run-down truck. The half-built deck I'd never finished. A photo of me passed out on the couch after a double shift. Then came the worst of it. Colette describing our intimate life. I faked it every time. He never knew what to do with a woman. It was like being married to a wet paper bag. Laughter erupted from a few people. Not the kind you hear when something's funny, but the cruel kind. The kind that cuts. I was burning. Chest tight, pulse pounding. But it wasn't over. The final clip was the boys sitting together, saying in unison, "We're changing our last names. We don't want to be Luring anymore." Noah stared straight into the camera. "We'd rather have no father than one who was never really there." Silence. 30 people stared at me like I was a ghost. I should have stood up and screamed. Instead, I cleared my throat, thanked them for coming, and walked out. I drove until I didn't recognize the streets anymore, parked behind a gas station, and cried. I screamed into the steering wheel until my throat went raw. They destroyed me, publicly, viciously, and they expected me to sit in it quietly. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to just disappear. I was going to burn the entire illusion down. They thought they were rid of Marcus Luring. They hadn't met the man I was about to become. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in my quiet, too-clean apartment. Lights off, the only sound being the occasional rattle of the old radiator. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Messages from Noah, Carter, Eli, even Colette. I didn't open a single one. Instead, I pour myself a glass of bourbon, the good stuff I only cracked open once a year, and walked to the bookshelf in the corner. Every shelf held. The picture frame held family portraits from years past, frozen smiles and summer lighting. I reached for one of us at the lake. Noah barely old enough to walk. Carter eating a popsicle. Eli curled up in a towel next to Colette. She was leaning into me in the photo. You'd think we were a happy family. What a joke. I set the photo face down. Then the next and the next, until they were all turned away from me. I opened my laptop and started typing. It wasn't a plan, more like a list, a road map to my revenge. Names, dates, dollar amounts. Noah, 3 years of mortgage support, $1,150 per month. That's $41,400. I remembered writing the first check like it was nothing. He was just starting out. Dad, I swear, just until I get promoted, he'd said. That promotion never came. He bought a $400,000 home with no backup plan, no emergency fund. Just faith that I'd always be there. Carter, the gambling addict. At least 2 major bailouts. $7,000 and $9,500. I'd once driven across state lines in the middle of the night because he called sobbing, saying some guys were threatening to break his legs. I wired the cash before dawn. Eli tuition, books, housing. He picked a private college with a $40,000 sticker price. State schools don't challenge me, Dad, he said. Colette couldn't cover it. So I did. Quietly. Always quietly. I scrolled through bank statements, transfers, credit card payments made on their behalf. I documented it all, not to demand it back, but to remember the weight I'd carried for so long. Every time I said I'm fine, and skipped my own doctor's visit. Every time I didn't upgrade my busted AC unit, because Eli's tuition came first. Not anymore. I took 2 sick days. Then 2 more. My boss, Dennis, called. I let it ring. For once, I was going to stop being reliable. That Friday, I made a choice that set everything in motion. I called Noah. He answered on the second ring. Dad. Hey, I'm really glad you called. I was worried. I'll sign the papers. I interrupted. The name change thing? If that's what you want, I won't stand in your way. There was silence on the line. Then, a bit too eagerly, he said, Really? That's okay? That means a lot. We didn't mean to hurt you, Dad. Not really. We just needed you to see things clearly. We were being honest. You were being cruel. I said, my voice level. But I'm not here to fight. He exhaled. Okay, maybe we can talk more in person. Over dinner. Just a family, you know? Dinner. Of course, I said. You set the time and place. He chose the most pretentious Italian place in downtown Larco Blue. The kind with valet-only parking. Menu items listed in Italian with no translations, and prices that would make a banker flinch. I dressed down deliberately, wore an old flannel, didn't shave, let the bags under my eyes show. The hostess looked at me like I was a charity case when I walked in. Loring, I said, party of 5. She blinked, then plastered on a smile. Right this way, sir. They were already seated. Colette waved like nothing had happened, like she hadn't torn into me in front of everyone. She wore a white blouse, so tight it looked painted on, clearly post-workout. Still trying to prove she was a youthful one. The prize. Eli sat slouched, face lit up by his phone. Carter was twirling his spoon like a baton, barely hiding his boredom. Noah, the golden boy, stood when he saw me, grinning like this was a family reunion. Dad, hey, he said, pulling out my chair. Glad you made it. I nodded. And Saturday couldn't miss the party, right? Colette leaned in. Marcus, we know the other night was intense, but the boys and we've been having a lot of conversations about healing growth. I stared at her. Is that what you call it? Growth? Telling a room full of people, I never satisfied you. She blinked. It was the truth. Eli chimed in, still not looking up from his phone. We just wanted to be honest. Isn't that what you always said? That honesty matters. Carter chuckled. Besides, it wasn't even that bad. Everyone laughed. I forced a smile. Yeah, a real riot. The waiter came. They ordered wine, appetizers, entrees. Colette asked for grilled salmon. Carter went for the $50 steak. Noah ordered a pasta I couldn't pronounce. I got a small plate of the cheapest thing on the menu. They kept talking about healing, about what they felt I lacked as a father. Colette even said, "You never really tried in the bedroom, Marcus." That's why... She stopped, but I knew what she was going to say. That's why I cheated. Oh, I knew. I'd known for years. She didn't think I had proof, but I did. I just never said anything. I didn't want to damage the boys. Not that night. As they pushed papers toward me, legal documents of their name changes, I signed without hesitation, no questions asked. "You're sure?" Noah asked, his voice unsure. I didn't look up from the papers. I nodded once, firmly. "If you want to be free of me, then be free." They left that night, the sound of their laughter and jokes filling the air as they walked away, chatting about what new names they'd choose. Carter, always a comedian, joked about changing his name to Stone because it sounded badass. It was a joke, but it stung. I paid the bill, $217, and left a 25% tip, not out of generosity, but because I still had a sense of dignity to hold on to. Then I went home. I didn't waste a second. The moment I stepped through my front door, the erasing began. No more reminders, no more ties. The first thing I did was cancel the mortgage payments. Gone. A small action, but one that felt monumental. Then I logged into my bank account and ended the monthly transfers to Noah's account, cutting off the financial lifeline that had kept him floating for years. Carter's emergency fund? Gone too. I blocked his number, flagged his name in my bank as a warning. No more random loans. No more helping him out of his messes. Eli's tuition check, the one I had sent just a few days ago, reversed. I didn't hesitate. I called the university's finance department and stopped the payment before it could clear. Let them feel it. Let them feel the sting of abandonment the way I had felt when they tore me apart. Publicly, mercilessly. They thought they were justified. But I had my revenge. But I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. I started digging. I knew there was dirt on all of them. Enough to burn their lives to the ground if I wanted to. I wasn't going to leave anything to chance. I gathered it all. Every email, every receipt, every piece of blackmail-worthy information I had stashed away. And believe me, I had plenty. Carter's gambling problem? I had screenshots of his desperate texts, receipts of casino wire transfers, and even a threatening message from a loan shark that I had paid to silence years ago. Colette's infidelity? I had photos, images of her with her trainer, who I knew wasn't just a trainer. A neighborhood resident had once accidentally sent me a selfie meant for her, and it was the exact kind of thing that could destroy a marriage. And I had the timestamps to prove it. Exactly when her car had been parked outside his house. I organized it all, printed it, collated it, labeled it neatly. I was meticulous. The next time they came knocking, I was going to answer with fire. By Monday, the storm began to roll in. Carter was the first to crack. His voicemail echoed in my inbox, his voice cracking under the strain. "Dad, you can't just pull the plug. I'm late on rent, and if the guys find out, I've got no backup." He hesitated before adding, "Are you really doing this over video?" The last part was a jab, a cheap attempt to make me feel guilty. But it was too late for guilt. Then came Noah with a long-winded email. His words tried to sound reasonable, tossing phrases like financial misunderstanding and emotional missteps, as if some academic jargon could distract me from the fact that he had helped orchestrate my public shaming. His tone was calculating, trying to manipulate the situation, to make me the villain, but I saw right through him. I ignored the message, knowing it was only an attempt to manipulate my emotions. The best, and by best, I mean the one that twisted the knife the most, came from Colette. "Marcus," she wrote, "this has gone far enough. You've made your point, but freezing out your own children? You're better than this. I know you are. You're still their father." No, I wasn't their father anymore. I was done being the invisible scaffolding that held up their world, the one who kept everything from collapsing. Now, I was a wrecking ball, and I was about to bring everything down. I ignored their desperate cries for a few days, savoring the silence and the taste of control that had eluded me for years. Then, I responded with a single, short text, surgical in its precision. We can talk. My place, Saturday noon. The response came almost immediately. All of them. Noah, Eli, Carter, Colette, all of them replied within minutes. The panic in her responses, the sudden, desperate obedience. It was delicious. They knew something was coming, and they were afraid. Saturday morning, I spent hours cleaning the apartment. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed it to feel like a clean break, a separation of the past from the present. I wiped every surface, dusted the old photo frames I hadn't thrown away yet. Not because they meant anything anymore, but because I wanted them to face the past. I wanted them to look at the remnants of their childhood, of a time when they believed I would always be there for them. At 11:48 a.m., Colette knocked first. Tight workout leggings, ponytail, that overdone perfume she always wore. She looked like she still owned the place, like she had the right to walk in at any time. She took a quick glance around, as if the apartment still held some kind of power over me, before she stepped inside. "Marcus," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Thank you for doing this." I didn't say anything, just nodded and stepped aside. Noah came next. He tried to look composed, but the weight of the situation was eating him alive. His posture slumped, the telltale sign of a man unraveling. Eli was last. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were bloodshot, his skin pale, and his movements sluggish. Carter walked in with sunglasses on, indoors. His usual bravado was gone. He looked hungover, pissed off, and defeated. They all took their seats on the couch like children being called into the principal's office. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air heavy with the weight of what was about to unfold. They had no idea how much pain I'd been holding back, but I was about to make them feel every bit of it, in more details without heading. ChatGPT said. I didn't say a word. Instead, I walked over to the TV, plugged a USB drive, and hit play. The screen flickered, and their birthday video began to play. But it wasn't from my perspective. It was from theirs. Every snide comment, every backhanded insult, every mocking clip of my so-called failures flashed across the screen. I stood still, watching as their discomfort grew. Carter was the first to crack, dropping his head into his hands, his shoulders slumping. Eli's jaw clenched tightly, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. Colette whispered in confusion, her voice trembling. "Marcus, what is this?" I turned to face them, my voice quiet but cold. This is what you did. I'm just reminding you." I turned back to the screen, letting it play for a few more seconds before walking over to the table and handing them each a thick folder. The weight of it in their hands was enough to make them hesitate. Proof of every sacrifice. I said, my voice cold, emotionless. I looked at Noah first. "You're on your own now. I'm done paying for a home I've never been welcome in." He opened the folder, his lips moving as he scanned the pages. $40,000, he muttered, disbelief in his voice. I turned to Carter next. I enrolled you in a gambling rehab program. You can go or not, but don't ever call me for money again." Carter tore through the papers, the look of shock on his face as he saw screenshots of his gambling debts. "You kept these?" he asked, his voice low, accusing. "No," I replied flatly. "I protected you with these. Until now." I handed Eli his folder. "I paid your tuition, but this semester is your last of my help. Get a job, Eli." Eli looked like he wanted to cry, his face contorted with the pain of the moment. "Dad, please," he pleaded. "I didn't plan that video. It was Noah and Mom who put together." I didn't let him finish. "You stood by, Eli. That's all the planning I needed to see." The words came out like a slap. Colette didn't reach for her folder. She knew what was inside. She knew what I had. I could see it in her eyes, the panic beginning to creep in. Photos, her trainer, the car, the time-stamped texts. Everything was there. "You lied to them," I said, my voice rising slightly. "Told them I failed you. but you were cheating long before you left. Colette stood up, anger flashing across her face. This is spite, Marcus, she snapped. No, I said, shaking my head. This is truth. Something you all pretend to want until it becomes inconvenient. I walked to the mantel and picked up one last folder. This one was different. I held it up, tapping the front of it for emphasis. This, I said voice steely, is for me. I opened the folder, revealing documents that held my name change. Marcus Luring was no more. I looked around the room, meeting their eyes one by one. You didn't want my name, I said quietly. Then I'm taking it with me. They froze, staring at me, powerless. There was nothing they could say, nothing they could do. I walked toward the door, pausing just before I left. I turned around, my voice hard. I'm going out now. There's Chinese food on the table, if you want it. But when you leave, lock the door behind you, because you're not coming back. I walked out without another word. By Sunday evening, they cracked. Carter called me from a random number, the one I had already blocked. I let it ring. Noah sent 5 texts in a row, all begging for a conversation. Then a 6th accusing me of abandoning them when they needed me most. Eli sent just one message. I don't know what to do anymore, Dad. I messed up. Still, no apologies for what they had done. Just panic now that their source of support was gone, and the man they thought was too soft to fight back had turned into a wall they couldn't break through. But Colette, she was the loudest. She left a voicemail at 3 a.m., her voice sharp and bitter. You're tearing this family apart, Marcus. They're your children. Is this really who you want to be? Vindictive? I laughed out loud. The same woman who had stood in front of a microphone and broadcasted our private life to a room full of strangers was calling me cold? I wasn't cold. I was done. But I had one last thing to do. Carter's fiancée, Mia, had always been sweet. She once sent me a Father's Day card when Carter had forgotten. She didn't know about his gambling, the debts, the countless times I had bailed him out at 2 a.m. She had no idea. Until now, I created a new email address, attached all the files, screenshots, bank transfers, text exchanges, and sent it to her anonymously. The subject line read, "You deserve to know who you're marrying." 2 days later, I heard from a friend that Mia had moved out. Carter went ballistic. His voicemail sounded half drunk, half deranged. You destroyed my life. Do you hear me? She's gone because of you. You're a damn snake. A bitter old man who couldn't take a joke. A joke. That's what he called it. The humiliation. The betrayal. The years of sacrifice I'd made for them all. Dismissed in one night. Like it was nothing. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The cracks were spreading. Noah's mortgage company called him about late payments. A sure sign of how deep his problems went. I knew about it because he left a desperate voicemail. His voice filled with dread. But by then, it didn't matter. The walls they thought they could tear down had become unbreakable. Dad, they're saying to default in 30 days. You can't just walk away from your responsibilities. Please, I have a wife and a kid. Eli messaged again. I'm about to get kicked out of school. I made a mistake. Please, Dad, please just talk to me. But the thing is, I'd already talked to them for years. Through every payment I made, every sacrifice I endured, every missed vacation and skipped meal, my love had always been loud, even when it felt like I was doing it in vain. I gave everything, tried to hold us together, but they never listened. They only heard my silence. A week later, I found myself walking into a quiet diner on the edge of town. The place had a worn, cozy atmosphere, torn leather booths and strong, black coffee that could wake the dead. Audrey was already there, sitting at a corner table. I'd met her 3 months earlier through a local hiking group, a group where we'd shared stories and long walks through the woods. Audrey had been through her own struggles, a divorce and 2 grown children, but she had kind eyes, and unlike the others in my life, she didn't interrupt me. She just listened. We spent hours together in that diner, exchanging pieces of our lives, finding comfort in the silence we shared, a quiet peace that I hadn't known in so long. When she looked up at me, concern in her eyes, she smiled gently and said, "Rough week?" "You have no idea," I replied, trying to smile back. She reached across the table and took my hand, her grip warm and steady. "You don't have to tell me everything, but I'm here," she said, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't feel like I was just a provider, a disappointment, or someone constantly at the mercy of others' needs. For that brief moment, I felt like a man again. The weeks that followed were hard. I lived like a shadow in their world, only there in the silence of my absence. They didn't see me, but they felt the weight of my absence. The phone calls came. Noah's house was under foreclosure, and Amber called crying, pleading, begging for me not to punish her kids for Noah's mistakes. I listened for a moment, then calmly responded, "Then maybe you shouldn't have aired mine to crowd." Carter left 5 voicemails in one day, each one swinging between fury and desperation. Mia had left him, and creditors were closing in. He even threatened to hurt himself if I didn't help him out. I didn't give in. I forwarded everything to a therapist I had lined up for him. If he showed up, good. If not, he was a grown man. I was done babysitting him. Eli sent me an email that I read but couldn't respond to. "I've got nothing left, Dad. I'm not asking for money. I just want to talk." But I knew it wasn't time for talk anymore. It was time for consequences. One Friday afternoon, as I was watering the dying ferns on my porch, a sleek black SUV pulled up. I didn't need to guess who it was. All 4 of them, Colette, Marcus, Noah, and Carter, stepped out looking like they were on the edge of collapse. Their shoulders were slumped, their faces hollow. They were the picture of people who had lost everything. I didn't move. "Marcus." Colette started softly, her voice breaking. "We were wrong." Noah stepped forward, his eyes red. "We messed up, Dad. Bad." I simply nodded. "I know," I said, my voice quiet, almost attached. Eli was next, rubbing his face in disbelief. "I can't believe I stood by and let them do that to you." Carter didn't say anything. He just stood there, for once not the loudest, not the most demanding. "For once, we're not here for money," Colette said, her voice trembling. I couldn't help but scoff. "Liar. If there's any way we can rebuild," she started, but I cut her off. "No," I said firmly. "You humiliated me. You mocked me. You discarded me, and then expected me to fix everything when your lives started falling apart. That's not love. That's convenience." They stared at me, unsure what to say. The silence between us felt heavy, but I wasn't done. "I'm not angry anymore," I added, my voice steady. "I'm free. I've changed my name. I've cut the ties. You wanted me gone. Well, you got it." Colette blinked, but I didn't give her time to respond. "Not my name anymore," I said, turning on my heel and walking back inside. I closed the door behind me with a finality that echoed through the house. They didn't follow. They didn't even knock. The door was closed, and with it, a chapter of my life I had carried too long was finally over. Spring came, and with it, a sense of renewal. Audrey and I took a trip to Yellowstone. We hiked trails I'd only seen in magazines, camped under the stars, and cooked our meals over an open fire. We talked about everything and nothing, but mostly about the things we hadn't had the chance to say before. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the canyon, Audrey turned to me and said, "You're lighter than when I met you." I smiled at her, feeling something stir inside me. "That's because I finally dropped the heaviest thing I ever carried," I said quietly. "Guilt that wasn't mine." Weeks later, I got one final message from Eli. It was simple, but it hit me harder than I expected. "I don't want money. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I was wrong. I don't expect anything, but I hope someday I can earn your respect back." I read it twice, then again, trying to process everything. For the first time since that night at the brewery, I felt something stir inside me. Not anger, not sorrow, just closure. It was a kind of closure I didn't know I needed, but now, standing here, I realized that I had finally found it.